Welcome to the Audio Inc. Radio podcast, featuring interviews with the biggest names in rock and metal. Hosted by Anne Erickson.
Get inked. Visit Facebook.com/Audio Inc. Radio, Twitter.com/Audio Inc. Radio, and AudioIncRadio.com for more ink. Whew, that's a lot of ink. It's AudioIncRadio.com.
That is right. You are here with me, Anne Erickson, Audio Inc. Radio. And it's great to hang out with you. I know I haven't done as many interviews and episodes as last year, but I've been doing at least one a month. It's been crazy. It's been kind of busy. I've got my radio job, which I love at Riff, and then got my band Upon Wings and all these different things. I'm painting now. I don't know if I told you that yet, but I don't know. I'm really getting into painting again. I used to do it in college, and then I just stopped and said, you know what? I'm not going to do any of these craft things until I'm like old and can't go anywhere. And then I was like, you know what? I miss it. So I'm going to give it a try again. And I just love it. So I've been doing that and been doing a lot of different things, but I promise that it will all be worth it, all of the waiting, because today or tonight, whenever you are rocking, I've got a great guest. It's a favorite. I like to think that sometimes we have guests that come on the show once. And then sometimes we have guests who are just favorites and they come back more than once. They come back twice, 3 times, maybe even 4 times. And the guest here is just honestly one of the most, how do I put this? I want to say down to earth rockers who I've ever interviewed. I mean, you can tell when you're talking to someone, and I mean, everyone I've interviewed has been great and wonderful and they talk to you at your level. They're not talking down to you, even though they're a big rock star. It's like you're talking with a friend or an equal. They've all been like that, but especially Myles Kennedy from Alter Bridge and Slash's band. I mean, every time I've interviewed him, he's very gracious and very well-spoken, very kind, and thankful for the coverage, which is really nice because a lot of bands and artists maybe take it for granted. But just a great guy. And of course, his voice, oh my gosh. I mean, the first time I heard Myles Kennedy, I was like, whoa, what's going on? I have no idea what's going on. Run for cover because this is crazy. And very excited that Alter Bridge, they have their much anticipated new record, Pawns and Kings, out on October 14th. It is great. I've heard the whole thing, got an advanced copy, and it's more aggressive, I would say, than some of the past Alter Bridge records, but it's got some really good stuff in here. It's got some old school sounding Alter Bridge. It's got some new school sounding Alter Bridge. It's got a great mix of 10 tracks. Mark Tremonti even does leads on Stay, which he's done lead vocals before. And then Myles, of course, does leads on everything else. And I know, it's great. I think it's one of their best. They just keep getting better year after year. And I'm very excited to have the one and only Myles Kennedy back on the show. Yeah, get ready for that. But just a reminder that if for whatever reason you don't subscribe to the podcast yet, first of all, shame on you. That is very bad. You're going to be on my bad side, but it's very easy. Just search Anne Erickson or Anne Erickson on Audio Inc. wherever you rock out to podcast. Hit subscribe and you'll be instantly notified of the next episode. And you get to hear it basically first before I share it on socials or do anything else with it. So, and it's free. Always free, because why not? So please subscribe. I would definitely appreciate it. And you can also find me on social media. I would love to hear from you. Head to itsmeanne.com. That's itsmeanne.com. Itsmeanne.com to link up on all of my personal social media, Twitter and Snapchat at Anne Erickson, Instagram and TikTok at Erickson Anne. And you can find Audio Inc. Radio on social media, the news outlet, and you can stay up to date with all of the latest rock and metal news. Facebook.com/Audio Inc. Radio, twitter.com/Audio Inc. Radio. There you go. And finally, if you haven't yet, check out my band Upon Wings at uponwings.com. We've got a new track, Last Love, out. And I want to thank you if you've been listening, because I'm telling you, this track has gotten tons of streams on Apple Music. I think we must be on a official playlist or radio there. I can't figure it out, but we're on something there. We're getting way more streams for Last Love than any other track we have released. So I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for all of your great support for Upon Wings. Uponwings.com for more info. And finally, there is a Patreon where you can support the show if you want to and support Upon Wings. Just head to patreon.com/Anne Autumn. And I'll have the link in the description so you can check that out. All right, I think that's all of the business. I am ready to rock it with you and the one and only Myles Kennedy of Alter Bridge and Slash on Audio Inc. Radio.
Hey, what's happening? This is Myles Kennedy from Alter Bridge, and you're listening to Audio Inc. Radio with Anne Erickson. Hey, Anne, how you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, as always, for making the time to chat.
It's always a pleasure.
Well, it's very exciting that Alter Bridge, you guys have the new record out on October 14th, Pawns and Kings. And, you know, a lot has happened between now and when you guys released your previous record in 2019. I mean, like, the world has been turned upside down. So I'm wondering, how has, you know, the past few years influenced this new album?
Well, I think the way we create and the way we approach the songs may be a little different, because we've had to become better and more self-sufficient, especially when it comes to demoing and whatnot. You know, early on in the process, Mark and I would approach putting the songs together a little differently, you know, having these parts and sitting in the same room together and fleshing out the parts. And, you know, do you have a chorus that goes with my verse, or do you have a riff that goes with this bridge, or whatever? And because of everything kind of shutting down, you had to get better at sitting in a room and building the genesis of the song, and then using technology to shoot things back and forth. Just because you couldn't get in a room together, you know, it was just, right. And also we live on opposite sides of the country, but it's still at the end of the day, it's still, you end up in the same place, you know. Which is great. I think it just helped us kind of test our technical abilities, you know, and now in a lot of ways I love having that option. I love having the option of spending time and really refining an idea before turning it over to my songwriting partner, and I think there's something to be said about that.
So I've heard the whole record and I love it. You know, it's very heavy and aggressive. And one track that really stands out to me is actually Sin After Sin. It's just like a really cool kind of groovy track with a big chorus. So can you tell me a little bit about the meaning and story behind that track?
Yeah, so that track, that's a track that Mark brought in. And so I just came up with the melody for that, but he came in with the music. So those are fun because that's closer to how we do things with the SMKC records, you know, with Slash and the gang, where he'll hand over a music bed and I'll put a melody and a lyric over the top of that. So that's just kind of the same sort of process with Sin After Sin, which was fun. And as far as the meaning behind the song, it's kind of, I guess, calling someone out for presenting themselves a certain way, kind of purely as someone who is virtuous and never in the wrong, but knowing that behind that is you know, something is very different. We've all experienced people like that in our lives. So that's what that song's about. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's very relatable. And another track that I really like is Season of Promise. I feel like it's a very classic sounding Alter Bridge song, if that makes sense. So can you tell me about that one?
Sure. Yeah, that's definitely more old school. So that's definitely kind of I think the Alter Bridge fans from way back in the day, you know, that's a track that they would recognize as possibly fitting on like One Day Remains or something.
Totally,
so yeah, that's one of those, I like to call them OG tracks.
Cool. Yeah. No, I definitely felt that when I heard it. I'm like, wow, this is like old school Alter Bridge, which is funny to think that there is old school Alter Bridge because you guys still seem really young. So what makes this record different from past albums that you guys have done?
I think in a lot of ways, just because the process has evolved to where it's at now. You know, like I alluded to earlier regarding how things have changed over the last few years. It forced our hand to reevaluate the process. This record definitely takes that and continues to build on that. And so for me, personally speaking, I like that, because when you challenge something that you, kind of a boilerplate that you had established for years and years and years, when you do something that way, you tend to end up with the same results. And so now that we've moved into this new realm of how we create, how we arrange, I feel like that helps coax something different out of us, so we're not making the same record over and over.
Now, you guys have been out there doing some shows, obviously following the lockdown and everything. Do you feel it's different out there when you're performing live than it was before COVID? Do you feel like people maybe appreciate live music more?
Yeah, I definitely see that. Yeah, I definitely see. When I went over to Europe for my solo tour in June, and I also noticed it when I was over in the UK and in December, it's palpable. You can feel how grateful people are to be back in the same room celebrating music together. You know, that's just a really beautiful example. Every night when you get on stage of I don't want to say example, but it's a beautiful manifestation of how that has shifted. Now, it's not to say that before everything shut down, before 2020, that people still weren't grateful and still weren't excited, but it's a new level now. It's different. It just feels different to me. And now, a few years from now, that may all change. It'll be back to kind of the way things were. But right now, you can still feel that people are really happy to experience the fellowship of music together again.
Yeah, no, I definitely feel that. And well, is there anything on the horizon with your own solo music?
Not at the moment. No, I've intentionally powered down and want to refill the well because it seems like for the last, I can't even remember the last time I really stopped creating, and I thought it would be advantageous to hit the pause button and let the well fill back up, and that way when I tackle in another batch of tunes, I'll be inspired.
Cool. And then people also obviously know and love you from your work with Slash. And I'm wondering, do you think that Slash will keep making solo music for years and years to come? Do you feel that he's, in it for the long haul?
That's a good question. I honestly don't know. I think that we're all really grateful and to some degree, I don't want to say surprised by the run that we've had. When I first signed on to do that Starlight back in 2009, and then we ended up doing Back from Cali, and I thought that would pretty much be it. And then he brought up, well, let's just do a tour together, and I thought, okay, well, it'll be a tour, and that'll be it. But if you'd have told me that 12 years down the road, 13 years down the road, we would have had this long run and multiple records and toured the world a number of times, I would have been blown away. So I guess time will tell how that continues.
So coming up with the new record for Alter Bridge, is there one song that you're most excited to perform live?
Good question. Probably if we can pull, I'm going to be real interested to see how we pull Pawns and Kings off. Because that's going to be a challenge. There's a lot of twists and turns in that one. So that'll be a fun challenge.
So what else is on the horizon for both you and Alter Bridge?
A lot of just preparing for the release of this record in October and getting ready for the tour. We start rehearsing, and I've started kind of practicing a few of the songs and trying to get those under my belt and get comfortable with them vocally, and so plenty of things to keep us busy.
Well, is there anything else you'd want to add?
No, I think that's it.
Well, thank you, Myles, and again, congrats on the record. I love it. I mean, I like all of your records, but yeah, I really like the vibe on this one, so I'm sure that your fans are going to dig it.
Fingers crossed. Thank you, Anne. Appreciate your time.
There he is, Myles Kennedy of Alter Bridge, and / thank you for being an amazing guest on my show. Just what a great guy. As I said, he's been on the show a bunch of times. I don't even know if this is the third or fourth. I don't know. And I've interviewed him for other outlets that I write for. So it's been great to chat with him again. And he's always very gracious, very down to earth, even though he is one of the biggest rock stars out there. I mean, he's the lead vocalist in Slash's band and, of course, Alter Bridge. You would never know it talking to him. Just a cool, down-to-earth, friendly, nice guy. Check out Alter Bridge's new record, Pawns and Kings, which is out on October 14th. It's great. I've heard the whole thing, all 10 tracks, and it's got a few of those tracks that are classic Alter Bridge, and then they've got some newer stuff, very aggressive, guitar heavy. I love it. Can you tell? I've got like this big smile on my face, and I love it. So check that out again. Big thanks to Myles Kennedy. You're welcome back anytime on the show. I look forward to the next time that we chat. Maybe when he does something solo, because he always, does the interviews during that too. It sounds like he hasn't done anything with his solo music lately, but hopefully next year, and we can get him back on the show to talk about his solo stuff. Wow, that was fun. What a great chat. What a great show. And just a reminder that if for whatever reason you don't subscribe to the podcast yet, first of all, you are on my bad side. You need to subscribe. Just search Anne Erickson or Anne Erickson on Audio Inc., wherever you rock out to podcast. Hit subscribe and you'll be instantly notified of the next major episode. And if you want to link up with me on social media, I love to hear from you. I love to talk music, or if you have an idea for a guest, head to itsmeanne.com, itsmeanne.com, itsmeanne.com to link up on social media. Direct, Twitter and Snapchat at Anne Erickson, Instagram and TikTok at Erickson Anne. And if you want to support the show, you can do that with our Patreon page, patreon.com/Anne Autumn. And if that's too hard, because I know the Anne has an E and blah, blah, I just put it in the description. If that's easier, you can just head there. And finally, check out my band, Upon Wings, at uponwings.com. Wow, I was just thinking that I think Alter Bridge, they're definitely not the first rock band I ever saw, but I do remember my first year in radio, they were doing a tour. They were still a very young band. And I remember going with one of my friends, and we had meet and greets because of the station. But I vaguely remember some drunk guy like giving me his autographed Alter Bridge tickets or something, which I don't know why I would need his, because if I had a meet and greet, I would get an autograph anyway. But I have them framed. And I don't know where it is, but I know it's around here because I find it every once in a while. I have these Alter Bridge tickets that are signed by the band, framed, from some random drunk guy who gave them to me. I think that's pretty much the best story I've ever told on the podcast. I don't think I can top that one, but I will try to top that one with the next. And yeah, I mean, me being a huge Creed fan, of course, when Alter Bridge came out, I had to check them out. And I'm glad I did, because they are one of my all-time favorite bands. But all right, enough of that little story from me. I'm sure that you will be enticed to come back next time on the show. I promise to have another incredible guest. It's Anne Erickson on Audio Inc. Radio.
It's Audio Inc. with Anne.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the Audio Inc. Radio podcast. Subscribe to our channel so you never miss an episode. Get inked online at audioinkradio.com. I'm Anne Erickson for the Audio Inc. Radio podcast.